I think you guys can figure out what this review is about. What's up everybody, it's Seth from Fowler Customs, and today I'm reviewing the recently released Air Jordan 11 Space Jam. Thanks so much for tuning in guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't yet. But with all that being said, let's get into it. So last Saturday, the Air Jordan 11 Space Jam dropped for the first time in a couple years, and I've got to say it was definitely worth the wait. I mean, right off the bat, the packaging for these shoes is on point. It's crazy. Even though this is the Air Jordan 11 December release, the packaging is a little different this time around. You no longer have the drawer box that you've had on previous Air Jordan 11 retros. This time around, you've actually got a sleeve that pulls off and exposes a regular pull-off top box. My favorite part of all the packaging is of course the sleeve. As you can tell, it's got 23 written in both Bugs Bunny's hands and also the Monstar's hands. That's really cool and different, and I'm really glad that they did that. And then of course in gloss black, weaving through the 23, you've got the 45. But moving on to the size tag, I got a size 9, my true size. The official colorway is black Concord white, and the suggested retail price is 220 bucks. 220 bucks is a lot of money for a pair of shoes, and let me tell you man, I was hurting after I bought these. Like, I've got Christmas gifts to buy, all sorts of stuff like that, and shelling out almost 250 bucks after tax on a pair of Jordans, that's a lot of money, man. But of course I can justify it because not only is it a pair of Space Jams, it's also the December pair of 11s, which, you know, everyone needs. It's still almost $250,000, and that's a lot of money. But enough of that, let's get into the shoes. Of course, the first thing you see when you open up the box is this plastic piece in blue with 11 in Roman numerals, kind of written in that kind of carbon fiber dot pattern. I just noticed this, but inside the lid, you've actually got this really dope galaxy print, and it's kind of reflective too, so it catches the light really nicely. That's a really nice touch. I didn't expect them to do anything like that. That's cool. I dig that. Like I said, the shoe is great, but the packaging for this pair is just off the charts. Next, you've got black paper with 45 written in gray. And then here they are, the Air Jordan 11 Space Jam. These look great. These look great. So first off, even though the shoe is being nicknamed by sneakerheads the Space Jam 11s and has a lot of Space Jam advertising behind it from Nike, it's technically not the same shoe that Michael Jordan wore in the movie. The shoe that Michael Jordan wore in the movie actually had a 23 on the back because he was still retired when the movie came out. The Stitch 45 is actually Michael Jordan's number when he came out of retirement in 1995 to play in the playoffs. And everything about the shoe itself is exact to what he played in the 1995 playoffs. So really this shoe is a 95 playoff colorway of the Air Jordan 11 with some Space Jam packaging and advertising behind it. But actually moving into the shoe itself, I missed out on the Space Jams when they last retroed, so it's really great to finally have a pair. These are probably the cleanest Air Jordan 11s. I think my favorite pair is actually the bread pair, but this pair is just so clean with the icy bottom and the black upper. Oh man, this looks great. So right off the bat, when you first look at these shoes, if you know anything about sneakers and anything about Air Jordan 11s, you'll notice that the patent leather is cut higher than it was on previous years. I mean, even when you put it up next to the 7210s, you can see that the patent leather on the Space Jams is cut a lot higher. And the reason for that, of course, is that this time around Nike went really true to the original cut of the shoe. Over the years with past Air Jordan 11 retros, the shape of the shoe has changed a lot. You'll notice on last year's 7210s that the middle of the shoe has this really sharp sweep upward. I mean, the whole midfoot to the front of the shoe is really pretty thin. But when you compare that to this retro and original releases, this shoe is a lot bulkier, and there's not so much of a crazy uptick as there was on the previous pair. In general, the shoe feels more substantial than it did in previous years. I really like the fact that Nike's trying to go back to the OG cut of the Air Jordan 11, but personally, I didn't really mind the old shape that much. It didn't really bother me. I still would have bought the shoes either way, but it's just nice to see them do that. So for what it's worth, I appreciate it. Of course, as I mentioned, you've got the patent leather around the middle of the shoe. As I'm sure you've already seen by now, whether it's in hand or in pictures, the legit version of the shoe does actually have peaks around the patent leather. And by peaks, I mean that little triangle on the edge of the patent leather, which is something Nike's done away with on previous retros, but because they're going back to the OG cut, the OGs had those, so they're back. Not only that, but around the top of the patent leather, instead of being black to match with the patent leather, it's actually white, which is actually a good thing because that white area is the grain of the leather, which means that Nike's actually using real and decent leather on this shoe. Moving up the shoe, you've got your standard ballistic mesh in black. On the upper heel of the shoe, you've got this leather area in black. Another change that Nike made to this model of the Air Jordan 11 is that on previous retros, the Jumpman on the left shoe was facing this way, but they went back to the way that they had done it on the original Air Jordan 11s by having him face towards towards the front of the shoe. You can see it right here on last year's 7210s and this year's 2016 Space Jams. It's nice that Nike's looking at the details for this shoe. Of course, on the heel tab of the shoe, you've got 45 stitched on rather than the 23 that's usually printed on. And as I mentioned before, 45 was Michael Jordan's number when he came out of retirement in 1995. And for those of you that don't know, the reason he was wearing 45 instead of 23 was because the NBA had actually retired 23 and they wouldn't let him wear that same number again. Of course, eventually he got it back. Moving down the shoe, you've got your standard Air Jordan 11 midsole in white. The outsole of the shoe is icy blue, which is true to the original version of the shoe. You've got the blue pods on the front and back, and of course your hit of exposed carbon fiber on the medial side. Overall, this is just a gorgeous classic shoe. Sneakerheads are always torn over shoes that they like, but this is one of those shoes that just about every sneakerhead loves, not only because of its history, but just because it's a gorgeous looking shoe. If you were trying to grab a pair of these for retail on Saturday, you should have been able to grab one. They were available a lot of different places and they weren't hard to get because there were so many of them. Of course, by now they're all sold out. They're not sitting like the 7210s did for about a week or so, and that's just because it's the Air Jordan 11 Space Jam. I did just see a pair at Kith Manhattan today, so it might still be sitting there, but not for long. Now that we've got the review out of the way, let's throw these guys on feet and see how they look. That's pretty much it for the video, guys. Make sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below letting me know which pair of Air Jordan 11s is your favorite. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to Fowler Customs if you want to see more content just like this, and follow Fowler Customs in all other forms of social media.